Welcome back, viewers. Today, we're diving into NEO stock dynamics. We'll discuss its potential rebound and how market trends might influence it. Stay tuned for insights into NEO's upcoming earnings and more. I want to talk about what's going on with NEO stock and break down why NEO may see a bounce tomorrow as we're getting very close to earnings. So I'm going to talk about that and then break down some important things to remember and also how the market could affect NEO. Now let's talk about the market. How are things looking? When we consider NEO, one of the things I mentioned is that we had this bullish divergence that was developing on it. And it's very likely that this thing may get a bounce very soon because we're getting very close to earnings. But it's not just because of NEO. When we analyze the market's in a very interesting state. The market could also help NEO to some extent. I'm going to break down exactly why that is, but first, let's talk about some data. So there's nothing really coming out tomorrow. We have the Dallas Manufacturing Index report that's coming out 1 hour after the market opens. Besides that, there's really like anything else. I mean, for Tuesday we have the JOLTS job numbers. Then for Wednesday, there's nothing really that big except for some GDP numbers. But the real important days are going to be Thursday and Friday when we have the PCE data. The inflationary numbers are going to be coming out from the Fed. And then finally for Friday, we have the unemployment numbers. So it's going to be an interesting week. We're going to start off very slow with data, nothing too much for tomorrow. And then when it comes to earnings tomorrow, we just have a couple of others, nothing too big. But then for Tuesday, before the market opens here in the USA, NEO is going to be announcing their earnings. And as NEO approaches it, there's a good chance this thing may get a bounce as we're starting to observe it making some headlines. So that's a very good thing that's going on. There is this news that came out for NEO, that NEO scored a major goal with a deal to become Oslo's taxi's first choice supplier. That is going to be very good for the overall autonomy technology and the robotax that NEO has been working on. Now say what you want about this technology, but at the end of the day for a NEO investor, this would be bullish news from their perspective. I'm not saying this to be ignorant. In a way, I'm just simply stating this because it's important for NEO investors to know this. And this technology is inevitable at this point. I mean, AI is continuing to advance. So there's no stopping this technology and its development, in my opinion. More and more companies and competitors will keep on hopping on with it. And for that reason, even though it may disrupt other industries, it still is technically bullish news for NEO because the overall self-driving technology and the autonomous driving is going to be a $1 trillion industry as time goes on, in my opinion. It's going to be very big for very, very big. It's going to lead to some interesting changes. And we'll be observing how this situation influences NEO. So this is a good deal that was signed by NEO on top of all of that. NEO is talking about the ET5T, again, the way you could travel in style with it, which is a very, very awesome vehicle. And I'm very excited for what the future holds for them. So anyways, when it comes to NEO, so NEO came down to about 10.48. But notice something very interesting. This is what I was calling out. Guys, I was calling this out earlier. I was telling you guys that NEO was going to base very soon. It's going to bounce. And I was telling you this based off the technical developments, based off our strong support right here in 10.5 area. And look what happened. Okay? Observe the past week. Did NEO really crash this week? The past week? No, it didn't. It came down to what 10.6 bounced a little bit, came down to 10.5 bounced. 10.5 bounced, 10.5 bounce, 10.48 bounce, and it got the bigger drop. When Jerome Powell was speaking, Powell talked the market tanked pretty hard, at least initially, right? Initially it tanked before it bounced. Well, NEO came down with the market because of that. It had nothing to do with NEO fundamentally. And notice how it continued to make these lows. It's been on this slight downtrend, but it's trying to base here. It's trying to form a very strong base here, and it's getting ready for a bounce now. The MACD has been trending upwards. The RSI is telling us it's gaining strength. It's gaining strength right here. It's kind of like when you're on a trampoline. You're not going to fall through the trampoline. You're bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, and eventually a big bounce is coming once you build that momentum, and that's what's happening to NEO. This is like the trampoline. It's bouncing. It's about to get a big push to the upside in my opinion. So with earnings right here coming out for Tuesday before the market opens, the last close for NEO is gonna be Monday as we approach its earnings with the triple bullish divergence. This could help NEO bounce. I think there's a high probability of NEO retesting. The 11.3 is gonna be probably tested, if not broken this imbalance right here. And if it breaks that, I'm going to be watching this thing get to 11.6. If it breaks 11.6, it's gonna push to $12. Evidently, there's a clear upward push, a nice 5+% green day. I think the odds greatly favor that. Now, one thing that could be a little concerning would be the setups on SPY and Tesla and etc. There's a head and shoulders forming on SPY, but there's also the possibility it's a trap, because when the bears tried to attack the market when Powell was speaking, they lost. The bulls came in and they pushed the market up. Considering the 4-hour time frame, we can observe. So with this possible head and shoulders, if we do get a rejection off this like 442 level, this could slow NEO down. If the market slows down, but if we break in this as just like a trap of fake out, we could just keep going. It's possible that this entity might surpass and reach 444 next. If it gets to this imbalance at 444, 446.32 is next. If it breaks that high, expect it to come all the way up to at least 451 or so. There's a possibility it might reach 451. If it breaks this high, that's going to be our trigger. I think the odds greatly favored that potentially happening. However, the initial step is to determine if the market can overcome this resistance. That's going to be our confirmation for Tesla. It's no different. Basically, Tesla is going to be testing 242. We have a head and shoulders like pattern developing, but they don't always play out. If it keeps going and breaks like 244, and this is like a trap, if it gets above the 200 EMA, it's going to push all the way up to 250 plus. There's a real possibility of Tesla doing that. But if the head and shoulders plays out, if Tesla rejects off 442, then we might notice a slight issue with the sync, which could potentially cause NEO to experience some slowdown in the upcoming days of the week. So I'm open-minded. I'm open to anything. For now, we're going to be observe the test. Do we get the rejection or not? That's going to be determined by the news coming out for tomorrow. I can't truly predict that in a way, but I'm going to be open-minded just by discussing the levels. And we will observe which way the market breaks for the QQQ. There's a possible head and shoulders if it breaks above 367. However, it could push all the way up to about 372. So if it breaks and holds the 200 EMA, 367 is gonna your area of resistance. It has the potential to push up nicely. If it rejects off the 200, it's gonna come all the way down and start pushing back below 360. So we're gonna be observing that test on there. The market could slow NEO down later on during the week. I was talking about this possibility if we start to witness the head and shoulders play out. But if they don't play out, that's going to be an extra boost for NEO, because NEO is, or it has a tendency of being dictated by the market to a large extent. Now the market is going to try to push initially, and we'll see if the market gets a rejection or not. If the market keeps going, this is going to help NEO push even harder. If the market rejects, NEO may hold up nicely for Monday, but I'm not as sure about Tuesday and Wednesday as that's going to depend on NEO's earnings, etc. But nonetheless, guys, I believe the odds greatly favor a nice push up on NEO. I think 11.3 is going to be on the table. NEO has the potential to break that level, and to break above that could push this thing to about 11.6 plus. And then if that breaks, $12 is on the table. But I think at the very least, we're going to talk about NEO get a nice green day, start pushing to the upside, should make its way up to at least 11.6 hopefully. And it's right before earnings. When earnings comes out, it's going to be very telling. Don't forget we also have some other pieces of data, such as deliveries coming out for the end of this week. Not to mention some big data from the PCE reports to the unemployment numbers at the end of the week for the entire market. So those are going to be very big for NEO. Make sure we pay attention to the news and what happens to go down. And with that said, Have a great Sunday, everyone out there. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more stock predictions and market insights. Remember to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Happy investing, and see you in the next video.